A sweeping investigation by the Miami Herald into allegations of abuse in Florida's youth detention facilities has culminated in the release of a series of articles collectively titled Fight Club: Dark Secrets of Florida's Juvenile Justice System. The interactive news piece details a litany of alleged offenses within detention facilities perpetrated by justice system employees. The allegations include the setting up of what have been termed fight clubs. The piece was constructed by the Miami Herald I-team, who analyzed 10 years of records from the Florida juvenile justice system. The records included documents, photographs, interviews, and surveillance videos. What they discovered was a workforce filled with questionable hires who, aided by poor oversight, were able to physically abuse detainees and bribe or coerce them into either viscous assaults or staged fights to be gambled upon. With 45% of Florida's youth offenders being detained again within 1 year, the Miami Herald claims the culture they have uncovered is, instead of reforming juvenile delinquents, turning them into hardened felons. One of the stories within Fight Club is Dark Secrets of Florida Juvenile Justice: Honey Bun Hits, Illicit Sex, Cover-Ups by Carol Marvin Miller and Audra D.S. Birch. That story focuses on the death of Lord Revolt, a 17-year-old resident of Module 9 of the Miami juvenile lockup. He was killed after a dozen boys attacked him in the dining hall. After being beaten to the ground, his attackers used a technique they called an 8 and stomp to further the torment. Revolt died 30 hours after the attack, as a result of internal bleeding. All of the assault was captured by surveillance video. No one was charged for Revolt's death because, according to the state attorney's office, the poor quality of the video equipment hampered its ability to hold anyone accountable. It was Revolt's death, which was at least the 12th questionable juvenile detainee death in Florida since 2000, that spurred the Miami Herald's investigation. The investigation found that, long before Revolt's killing, detainees had been complaining about staff turning them into hired mercenaries, offering honey buns and other rewards to rough up fellow detainees. Honey bunning seems particularly prevalent across Florida's youth detention facilities. Gordon Weeks, a Broward County juvenile defender, told the Herald that his office has complained repeatedly that poorly nourished youths were being manipulated by staff. The honey bunning practice involves detention staff using treats from the staff vending machine to bribe detainees into violent acts. When youths refuse a staff member's orders to fight another detainee, they can face stiff punishment. 14-year-old Andrew Ostrovsky was serving time in the Broward Regional Juvenile Detention Center after taking his dad's car for a joyride. Inside, he was allegedly told by detention officer Daryl Byron to beat up another detainee. Ostrovsky tried, but Byron then threw him on the ground and punched him in the face, breaking his nose in 2 places. Again, the entire incident was captured on surveillance cameras. Bryant resigned from the Department of Juvenile Justice, and Fort Lauderdale police have a case open on the incident. Another article from the investigation, titled Outrage Brings Reform at Violent Palm Beach Juvenile Program, details the so-called fight club that existed at Palm Beach Juvenile Correctional Facility. The article includes testimony from Steven Santos, a teenage detainee who was serving time for robbery and aggravated battery. In a declaration signed in support of a whistleblower lawsuit, Santos said he was an enforcer for the guards. He claimed he was instructed to beat up fellow detainees in order to keep the dorm under control. His reward for doing this was takeout food and the promise that his sentence would be shortened. Santos also claimed that staff set up fights between detainees, which the staff would bet on. The whistleblower lawsuit was settled in March 2016 with Youth Services International, the operator for Palm Beach Juvenile Correctional Facility. YSI claimed they settled to avoid a lengthy and expensive legal process, but also denied the validity of the claims made by Santos or others. Outside of that lawsuit, a number of other claims have been made against Palm Beach Correctional. In March 2014, Rashad Abel suffered a broken nose in a fight he says was set up by staff. A few months later, Abels told investigators he was injured from his third staged fight in the facility. Abels tells investigators that 2 workers converted a supply closet into a mixed martial arts cage and then watched detainees fight inside it. The Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office investigated the facility in 2014. They had already arrested staff members from there in the past for starting a boxing club minus gloves or headgear within the detention center. The new investigation proved there was evidence that workers allowed youths to fight with little to no staff intervention, but insufficient evidence that they arranged fights. A video from June 12, 2015 offers some of the most clear evidence of Palm Beach juvenile correctional staff overseeing a fight between detainees. The surveillance footage shows 2 shirtless youths fighting while a staff member in a dark green polo shirt watches on. He seems to separate the two youths once the fight goes to the ground. According to the Herald, the same detainees fought again the next day. One of the detainees required jaw surgery as a result. The main reason behind the violent practices at these facilities is, according to the Herald, the hiring process that sees underqualified individuals with histories of violence employed in Florida's juvenile justice system. The piece, Criminal Record Horrible Work History, Florida Juvenile Justice Would Still Hire You, reveals that around 350 staff members at juvenile detention centers are individuals who had been fired or resigned due to wrongdoing from jobs in adult corrections facilities. Those included about 74 employees who were caught sleeping on the job or failing to show up for work, and 66 who were fired for a moral character violation. An additional 47 employees were hired after they resigned or retired while being investigated for such a serious breach. One of the staff members the Herald profiled in detail was Uriah Harris, who was hired by Avon Park Youth Academy, a detention facility in Polk County. This was despite Harris having been arrested 11 times and being charged with aggravated battery, domestic violence, child neglect, and prowling. He was fired from Avon Park after 2 years, thanks in part to reports he beat boys with a broomstick. Harris allegedly named his weapon Broomy. This is just one of many stories the Herald released detailing abuse committed by a juvenile detention staff member. To repair what is clearly a broken system in Florida, the Herald suggests the state adopts practices similar to New York and Missouri. The paper details this in its article, How NYC and Missouri Are Reforming Juvenile Justice Without Razor Wire Fences. That story states that after a death in a youth prison in 2006, a report into New York's youth justice system found an unnecessarily high degree of force that lead to an excessive number of injuries inside facilities. In response, the state shifted their spending from brick-and-mortar institutions into community alternatives. Judges were also asked to stop incarcerating youths who are not significant risks to public safety. Outside of youth facilities, staged fights are nothing new in the U.S. prison industrial complex, a system that incarcerates more people than anything else on earth. In September 2016, it was reported that 3 San Francisco County Jail inmates had been awarded a settlement after being forced to fight for the entertainment of their guards. In 2015, the Huntsville item reported that former correction officers in Texas were sentenced to jail for allowing prison fights and then trying to cover it up. In the 1990s, Corcoran State Prison in California was also hit with the Fight Club scandal. Corcoran played host to a ritual known as Gladiator Days, where guards would bet on prisoner fights. In some cases, according to The Independent, prisoners were shot and killed by guards during these fights. Prison fight clubs have also been reported in the UK, Canada, and New Zealand.